Hi, I'm Dr. Sherwana Davis, a psychotherapist, here to provide you with this week's review of Married to Medicine. While reality television provides us with lots of drama, it also provides us with some great life lessons that we can all apply to our lives. And this week's episode was full of drama. The last couple of episodes have been pretty chill. The ladies were getting along. In this episode, we saw some real tension between some of the women. It started off actually pretty early on in the episode where we saw Dr. Simone have an exchange of a communication between Dr. Heavenly and her. And then there was also the communication between Dr. Simone and Dr. Jackie. And it all centered around the group going to Hilton Head just because of the sensitivities around that trip as it relates to some past experiences that Dr. Jackie and her husband had regarding their marriage about that particular location. One of the key elements that I think we can all learn from, because we saw in that episode that Dr. Heavenly chose initially not to go when she thought that Dr. Jackie and her husband was not going to go. Whenever we're making those decisions, when we're in a friend group, it's important to do what we feel and do what we think is right, which is Dr. Heavenly said, but also know that that could come at the risk of the other friendships in the group. So we saw that play out. So, if all possible, make sure you're weighing those considerations. And if all possible, try to hold a neutral stance within the group so that you're not necessarily alienating other members. But I thought that was pretty realistic because sometimes you do have to make really hard choices when you're a part of a friend group. But we saw that play out. The second part of the episode that was pivotal was actually when the group arrived to Hilton Head, right? We saw that eventually we saw Dr. Heavenly and Dr. Jackie actually join the group. And so we saw them all gather around the table, and there was some high tension there because the group expressed their feelings of feeling very alienated because of the choice that Dr. Heavenly initially made. So some of the women expressed that. And then we also saw Dr. Jackie and her husband express some of the reservations that they had about going to the trip, right? They didn't want to revisit a very painful part of their marital history. And so they didn't want that to be the center of attention, which is, we could see and understand their concern about that. But I think the pivotal part of the scene actually happens when they go into the house, right? Because they were really loud outside, so they decided to go into the house to further their conversation. And we saw a heated exchange between Sweet Tea and Dr. Jackie. And so we saw Sweet Tea express some of her frustration that she had with feeling like in the past she's been put on the hot seat and under some scrutiny, and she didn't feel like Dr. Jackie was getting that same treatment. So she expressed some of her frustration and concern and how difficult it was for her with this group. Two parts. One, it was really nice that that conversation did not escalate. So even though Sweet Tea was pretty heated, Dr. Jackie was able to maintain some of her cool in that conversation. She was pretty direct, but she didn't take it a step further. So that was good in neutralizing some of the high emotions in that scene. The other part that I thought was really pivotal was actually the scene between the aftermath between Dr. G and Sweet Tea, where he expressed his concerns, right? And so he was able to convey to Sweet Tea that he's going to always be on her side. But as her husband, he wanted to provide her with his honest viewpoint about how he felt about that exchange and how it went down. So I thought that was really good to see a couple really communicate honestly with each other. And that's very important. You want to have a spouse who not only supports you the way Dr. G did, but also feels comfortable providing with his honest opinion about how he saw things. So I thought that was very interesting to watch, and another one of those lessons that you can take away as a part of your life as well, to have a partner who's supportive but yet honest. Part three of this actually happened on the bus ride. We saw on that bus ride, we saw Sweet Tea had some time to consider what happened the previous evening with that exchange between her and Dr. Jackie. And so she conveyed her apology as a result of that. And we saw um, we saw Dr. Jackie's response to that apology. So the big lesson learned there is that I think the most important part is Sweet Tea was able to reflect on what happened the previous night in her delivery, and she owned up to it and she apologized. And you can't ask for more than that. And of course, just because we give an apology doesn't mean that it's always accepted. So we saw that play out in the scene as well. Let me know your thoughts. Feel free to comment below. And until next time.